I never thought I'd be the kind of person to post on Reddit, but here I am at 2 a.m., finally ready to tell this story. It's been 18 months since everything happened, and I still get messages from people in our town asking about the wedding incident. So here's the full story of how I discovered my best friend was sleeping with my husband, and how I ended up marrying her recently widowed father in what became the most talked about wedding in Charleston, South Carolina history. My name is Emma, and 3 years ago, I thought I had everything figured out. I was 29, working as a financial analyst at one of Charleston's premier investment firms, Whitmore and Associates. I'd been married to Daniel for 4 years. We were college sweethearts who'd done everything right. Met at Duke University, got engaged senior year, had a picture-perfect wedding at Magnolia Plantation with 250 guests, bought a gorgeous Victorian house in the French Quarter. Daniel worked as an architect at Brennan Design Group, one of those firms that specialized in preserving Charleston's historic charm, while modernizing the interiors for wealthy Northerners moving south. My best friend since middle school, Jessica, lived just 3 blocks away. She worked as an event coordinator at the Charleston Harbor Resort, planning weddings and corporate events for the city's elite. We had brunch every Sunday at Hominy Grill, went to Pure Bear together 3 times a week, and our husbands, well, Jessica wasn't married but had been with her boyfriend Ryan for 2 years, would golf together at the Country Club of Charleston. It was the kind of friendship everyone envied. We even had matching tattoos, tiny anchors on our wrists that we'd gotten the day after high school graduation, symbolizing how we'd always keep each other grounded. Jessica's father, William Hartley, was Charleston royalty. He owned Hartley Hospitality Group, which included 5 luxury hotels along the southeastern coast, 3 high-end restaurants, and a yacht charter company. After Jessica's mother died of cancer 5 years ago, William had thrown himself into work, becoming even more successful, but notoriously reclusive. I'd known him since I was 13, and he'd always been kind to me, treating me like a second daughter. He was 52, distinguished in that Southern gentleman way. Silver hair, always impeccably dressed, with the kind of quiet authority that commanded respect without raising his voice. The first sign something was wrong came in February. Daniel started working on a huge project that required late nights and weekend sessions. The Brennan Design Group had supposedly landed a contract to renovate the old Blackwood Estate on Battery Street, turning it into luxury condos. It was plausible. The Blackwood Estate was a 15,000 square foot antebellum mansion that had been empty for a decade. The kind of project that could make an architect's career. I'll probably be at the site until midnight. Daniel would text, "Don't wait up. Love you." I was busy with my own work. Tax season meant 12-hour days analyzing portfolios and preparing reports for our high net worth clients. I didn't have time to question why an architect needed to be on site so late when construction crews went home at 5. The second red flag was Jessica's sudden interest in my marriage. She'd always been supportive, but never intrusive. Now she was asking specific questions. Does Daniel still go to that CrossFit gym on King Street? What time does he usually leave for work? Is he still allergic to shellfish? I thought she was just being thorough. She was planning a surprise party for Daniel's 32nd birthday in April. One Sunday in early March, during our usual brunch, Jessica seemed distracted. She kept checking her phone, smiling at messages, then quickly putting it away when I looked over. "New guy?" I asked, teasing. Ryan had moved to Atlanta for work 3 months earlier, and they'd broken up rather than try long distance. "Something like that," she said, blushing in a way I hadn't seen since high school. "It's complicated." "Complicated how? Is he married?" I joked. The way her face went pale should have told me everything, but I was naive, trusting, blind to what was right in front of me. "No, not married. Just the timing isn't ideal." I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Jess, you deserve to be happy. Ryan's been gone for months. If this new guy makes you smile like that, go for it." She squeezed back, her eyes filling with tears. "You're such a good friend, Em. I don't deserve you." The third red flag was the credit card statement. Daniel and I had always been transparent about money, joint accounts for everything, full disclosure on purchases. But when I was gathering documents for our taxes, I noticed charges I didn't recognize. A jewelry store on King Street, won $1,800. The Ocean Room restaurant at the Sanctuary Hotel on Kiowa Island, $450. A weekend at the Greenbrier Resort in West Virginia, $3,200. When I asked Daniel about them, he didn't miss a beat. Client entertainment, he said, the Blackwood Estate investors. You know how these old money types are. They expect to be wined and dined. Brennan said the firm would reimburse everything. It made sense. Charleston ran on those kinds of relationships, deals sealed over bourbon and oysters. I didn't think to ask why he hadn't mentioned a weekend trip to West Virginia. The truth came crashing down on March 24th, a Tuesday that started like any other. I'd finished a major project early and decided to surprise Daniel with lunch from Husk, his favorite restaurant. I'd gotten us both the fried chicken sandwiches he loved, sweet tea, and their famous peanut butter pie for dessert. The Blackwood Estate was only a 10-minute drive from my office. I'd never actually visited the site, despite Daniel talking about it constantly. The massive iron gates were open, which seemed odd for a property under renovation. The driveway was overgrown with Spanish moss hanging from ancient oak trees, giving the whole place a Gothic Southern feel. But when I reached the mansion itself, there were no construction vehicles, no workers, no signs of renovation at all. Just Daniel's BMW, parked next to a familiar white Mercedes. Jessica's white Mercedes. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped the bag of food. The containers burst open on the gravel, sweet tea spreading in a dark pool. But I barely noticed. I was walking toward the mansion in a trance, my heels crunching on the overgrown path. The front door was slightly ajar. I could hear music coming from inside. Etta James, At Last. Our wedding song. The song Daniel and I had our first dance to. I pushed the door open and stepped into a grand foyer that should have been covered in drop cloths and construction dust. Instead, there were candles everywhere. Rose petals scattered on the marble floor. A trail leading up the curved staircase. I followed the trail, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might explode. Each step felt like walking through quicksand. The master bedroom door was open, and I could hear them before I saw them. Jessica's laugh, that distinctive giggle I'd known since we were 12. Daniel's voice, low and intimate in a way I hadn't heard in months. We can't keep doing this, he was saying. Emma's starting to ask questions. 3 more weeks, Jessica replied. After you file for divorce, we can stop sneaking around. We can finally be together publicly. What about your father? He adores Emma. He's going to lose his mind when he finds out. Daddy will get over it. He wants me to be happy. And Em, she'll be fine. She's stronger than you think. She'll probably throw herself into work and forget all about you in 6 months. The casual cruelty of it broke something inside me. I stepped into the doorway, and the scene burned itself into my memory. They were on a bed someone had brought in, not just sleeping together in an empty house, but they'd furnished it, made it their space. There were photographs on the nightstand, pictures of them together that I recognized now with horrible clarity. Jessica's girls' weekend in Savannah, Daniel's golf trip to Hilton Head. They saw me at the same moment. Jessica screamed. Daniel jumped up so fast he knocked over a champagne bottle on the nightstand, Perrier Jouet, the same champagne we'd served at our wedding. Emma, Daniel started. This isn't... 6 months, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. The credit card charges go back 6 months. Jessica had pulled a sheet around herself, her face streaked with tears already. Em, please let me explain. There's nothing to explain. I pulled out my phone and started recording. But I do want to document this for the divorce proceedings. Please, continue. You were saying something about 3 more weeks? Daniel grabbed his pants, his architect's hands that used to draw our dream home on napkins during date nights, shaking as he tried to dress. Emma, stop. We can talk about this like adults. Adults don't fuck their wife's best friend in a house they're pretending to renovate. I kept recording, getting a clear shot of the photographs. The champagne, Jessica's clothes scattered across the floor. Adults don't plan someone's birthday party while planning to steal their husband. It's not like that, Jessica sobbed. We fell in love. You can't help who you fall in love with. You're right, I said, still eerily calm. You can't help who you fall in love with. Remember that." I turned and walked out, my heels clicking against the floor with metronomic precision. Behind me, I could hear them calling my name, scrambling to dress, to follow me. But I was already at my car, already driving away, already planning my next move. The drive back to my office was a blur. I parked in the garage and sat in my car for 20 minutes, replaying the last 6 months in my mind. All the signs I'd missed, all the lies I'd believed. The times Jessica had comforted me about Daniel working late, knowing exactly where he was. The times she'd encouraged me to take on extra projects at work, keeping me busy and distracted. I called my boss, Richard Whitmore, and told him I needed to take the rest of the week off for a family emergency. Then I drove home, packed a bag, and checked into the Ocean House on Sullivan's Island. I needed space to think, to plan, to figure out my next move without Daniel trying to manipulate me with tears and apologies. That night, I sat on the beach with a bottle of wine and my laptop, researching divorce lawyers. But my mind kept drifting to something else. Someone else. William Hartley. Jessica's father had been widowed for 5 years. He was handsome, successful, and had always been kind to me. More importantly, he was Jessica's father, her beloved daddy who she was so sure would forgive her anything. The idea that formed in my mind was insane. Calculating. Completely out of character for the good girl Emma everyone thought they knew. But that Emma had died in the Blackwood Estate, surrounded by candles and rose petals meant for another woman. The new Emma was about to be born. The next morning, I called William's office. His assistant, Margaret, recognized my voice immediately. "Emma, dear, how are you? Mr. Hartley was just asking about you yesterday. He's planning the Harbor Foundation gala and wanted to make sure you and Daniel would be at his table." "Actually, Margaret, I was hoping to speak with William privately about a business matter. Is he available for lunch this week?" "For you. Always. How about Thursday at 1 p.m.? He has a standing reservation at Peninsula Grill." Thursday arrived gray and drizzly, matching my mood. I'd spent 2 days with my divorce lawyer, Catherine Chen, documenting everything. Daniel had tried calling approximately 200 times. Jessica had sent dozens of texts, ranging from apologies to accusations that I was overreacting. I'd blocked them both. I dressed carefully for lunch with William. A black sheath dress that was professional but flattering. Pearl earrings that had belonged to my grandmother. Just enough makeup to hide the fact that I'd barely slept. William was already at the table when I arrived, standing as I approached like the Southern gentleman he was. He looked good. Better than I remembered. The grief that had aged him after his wife's death had softened into something more like wisdom. His silver hair was perfectly styled, his navy suit impeccable, his smile genuine and warm. "Emma," he said, kissing my cheek, "you look beautiful as always. Though I have to say, you seem tired. Everything all right?" We sat down, and I ordered a glass of wine, even though it was barely past noon. "William, I need to tell you something. About Jessica." His expression shifted to concern immediately. "Is she okay? Has something happened?" "She's fine. Physically, but she's been having an affair with Daniel, my husband, for 6 months." The color drained from his face. His hands, holding the menu, trembled slightly. "What?" I told him everything. The discovery at the Blackwood Estate, the credit card charges, the lies upon lies upon lies. As I spoke, I watched him age 10 years in 10 minutes. This man who'd built an empire, who'd survived his wife's death, who'd raised Jessica alone, he looked broken. "I'm so sorry," he said finally. I can't believe Jessica would. Emma, I'm so incredibly sorry." "It's not your fault. She's my daughter. I raised her. If she's capable of this, then I failed somewhere." "You didn't fail. People make their own choices." We sat in silence for a moment, then William signaled the waiter for a bourbon. At 1:15 in the afternoon, William Hartley, who never had more than a single glass of wine at dinner, ordered a double Blanton's neat. "What can I do?" he asked. "Whatever you need. The best divorce lawyer in the state. Financial support. A job recommendation if you want to leave Charleston. Name it." "Actually," I said, taking a sip of my wine, "I was hoping we could discuss something else." "Anything." "The Harbor Foundation gala. I know it's 3 weeks away, but I was wondering if you needed a co-chair, someone to help with the final preparations." He looked confused. "You want to help plan the gala? Emma, you just found out your husband." "I know what I found out. But I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to run away. And I'm certainly not going to let them think they've broken me. The Harbor Foundation Gala is the social event of the season. Everyone will be there, including Daniel and Jessica, I assume? Understanding dawned in his eyes. You want to make a statement. I want to do more than that. William, I've always admired you. The way you built your business, the way you handled Maria's death with such grace, the way you've always treated me like family. You are family, or at least you were supposed to be. What if I still could be? The question hung between us. William's bourbon arrived, and he took a slow sip, studying me over the rim of the glass. Emma, what are you asking? I'm asking if you'd like to go to the gala with me, as my date. The silence stretched for so long, I thought I'd miscalculated. Then William laughed, not mockingly, but with genuine surprise and something that sounded like admiration. You want to show up at the social event of the year on my arm, knowing that Jessica will be there, knowing what people will say? Yes. This is about revenge. Partly, I admitted, but not entirely. William, I've known you for 16 years. You're brilliant, successful, kind, and if I'm being honest, incredibly attractive. If circumstances were different, if I'd met you under different conditions, I think we could have something real. I'm 23 years older than you. So, you're in better shape than most 30-year-olds. You run marathons, you built a business empire, you read actual books instead of scrolling Twitter. You know who you are and what you want. That's more attractive than you might think. William took another sip of bourbon. And Jessica? She's my daughter. This would destroy our relationship. She destroyed it herself when she chose to betray someone you cared about, someone you considered family. The question is, are you going to let her choices dictate your life? We talked for 3 hours about the betrayal, about loneliness, his after Maria's death, mine in a marriage that had been dying long before I discovered the affair, about the possibility of finding something unexpected in the wreckage of our carefully planned lives. By the time we left, William had agreed to be my date to the gala, but something had shifted during lunch. What started as a plan for revenge had become something more. We genuinely enjoyed each other's company. The conversation flowed naturally. The age difference that should have felt awkward instead felt irrelevant. One condition, William said as he walked me to my car. We do this right. Real dates. Real conversations. If we're going to shock Charleston society, let's at least give them something authentic to gossip about. Over the next 3 weeks, William courted me with an intensity that took my breath away. Dinners at restaurants Daniel could never afford. Weekend trips to his beach house on Pawleys Island. Long walks through Hampton Park discussing books, business, life. He sent flowers to my office every Monday, not roses, which he said were cliché, but exotic orchids and peonies that made my coworkers whisper. The divorce papers were filed within a week of discovering the affair. Daniel tried to contest it, but the evidence was overwhelming. The credit card charges alone proved adultery. South Carolina was an at-fault state, and adultery meant I got everything. The house, the investments, even his precious Porsche that he'd bought with what he claimed was his bonus, but I now knew was money siphoned from our joint accounts for his love nest with Jessica. Jessica tried to contact me through mutual friends, through her father, through handwritten letters delivered to my office. I returned them all unopened. She showed up at my house one night, banging on the door, screaming that I was ruining her life by seducing her father. I called the police and got a restraining order. The night of the Harbor Foundation Gala arrived with perfect Charleston spring weather. Warm but not humid, a gentle breeze off the harbor carrying the scent of jasmine and salt water. I wore a crimson Oscar de la Renta gown that William had insisted on buying, despite my protests. If we're going to give them a show, he'd said, let's give them Broadway, not community theater. The gown was perfect. It hugged every curve, the deep V neckline tasteful but daring, the color making my skin glow and my green eyes pop. My hair was swept up in an elegant chignon, and the diamond necklace William had given me the night before caught the light with every movement. It wasn't an engagement ring, but it was a statement. William picked me up in his Bentley, and when I opened the door, the look on his face made every penny of the dress worth it. You're stunning, he said simply. I'm going to be the envy of every man there. And I'll be the scandal of every woman. Let them talk. You're worth it. The Harbor Foundation Gala was held at the Charleston Harbor Resort, Jessica's workplace. She would be there in a professional capacity, unable to leave, forced to watch. The irony was delicious. We arrived fashionably late, making our entrance just as dinner was being served. The ballroom doors opened, and I felt 400 heads turn in unison. The conversation died like someone had pulled the plug on a speaker. We walked in arm, William in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, me in my crimson gown, both of us radiating confidence we didn't entirely feel. The whispers started immediately, rippling through the crowd like waves. Is that Emma Richardson? With William Hartley? But isn't she married to? And he's Jessica's. Oh my God. We made our way to the head table, where William's name card was prominently displayed as the event's primary sponsor. The seats had been arranged with William at the center, and to his right, where Jessica's card had been, was now my name. I'd made the change myself that afternoon, using my newfound friendship with the catering manager who'd heard about the affair and was firmly Team Emma. That's when I saw them. Daniel and Jessica, standing by the bar, frozen in shock. Daniel was in a rented tuxedo that looked cheap compared to the men around him. Jessica wore a black cocktail dress that was appropriate for staff, not guests. They were trying to blend in, probably hoping to make an appearance and leave quickly. Our eyes met across the ballroom. I smiled, raised my champagne glass in a small toast, then turned my full attention to William. "They're here," I murmured. "I know," he replied, his hand finding mine on the table. "How do you feel?" "Spectacular." The dinner was exquisite. William and I held court at our table, charming the other guests, discussing the foundation's work, acting as if we were the only two people in the room. But I was hyper-aware of Jessica and Daniel, watching from the periphery, unable to approach because of the restraining order, but unable to leave because of their own stubborn pride. After dinner, the dancing began. William led me onto the floor for the first dance, and we moved together like we'd been partners for years. He was an excellent dancer. Another thing Jessica had probably never bothered to learn about her father. "Everyone's staring," he whispered in my ear. "Good. Emma, I need to tell you something." "Now?" "Now." He pulled me closer. "What started as a favor, as a way to help you through this, it's become real for me. These past 3 weeks have been the happiest I've been since Maria died." I pulled back to look at his face. "William, I'm falling in love with you. Genuinely. Completely. And I don't care that you're 23 years younger, or that you were married to my daughter's lover, or that all of Charleston thinks we're insane. I love you." The music swelled around us. The crowd faded away, and in that moment, I realized something extraordinary. What had started as revenge had become real for me too. This man who'd shown me respect, kindness, passion, who'd treated me like a queen while my husband had treated me like furniture. I was falling for him too. "I love you too," I said, and meant it. That's when Jessica snapped. She stormed onto the dance floor, her face twisted with rage, tears streaming down her cheeks. "How could you?" she screamed. "He's my father! My father!" The music stopped. Every eye in the ballroom turned to us. This was it, the moment I'd been planning for, but now that it was here, I felt oddly calm. "How could I?" I repeated. "How could I what, Jessica? Fall in love with someone who was available? Build a relationship based on honesty and respect? Choose happiness after betrayal? You did this to get back at me." "No," I said clearly, my voice carrying across the silent ballroom. "You did this to yourself. You chose to sleep with my husband. You chose to lie to my face for 6 months. You chose to destroy a 16-year friendship for a man who was already committed to someone else. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. How was it supposed to happen? Was I supposed to quietly disappear, accept my humiliation gracefully, let you have your happily ever after built on the ruins of my marriage?" Daniel finally found his courage and stepped forward. "Emma, please. This is inappropriate. William is old enough to be your father." "And Jessica was young enough to be your sister?" I shot back. "Didn't stop you, did it?" William stepped between us, his voice calm but firm. "Jessica, Daniel, I think you should leave." "Dad, please," Jessica begged. "She's using you. She's manipulating you to hurt me." "No," William said quietly. You hurt yourself. You hurt Emma. You hurt me. You betrayed someone I loved like a daughter, and in doing so, you betrayed me too. I'm ashamed of you, Jessica. Your mother would be ashamed of you." The words hit Jessica like a physical blow. She stumbled backward into Daniel's arms, sobbing hysterically. Security moved in, gently but firmly escorting them out. The entire ballroom watched in stunned silence. Then someone started clapping. One person, then another, until half the room was applauding. Not for the drama, but for the dignity with which we'd handled it. Charleston society loved nothing more than a good scandal, but they loved justice even more. The music resumed. William and I finished our dance, and the rest of the evening passed in a blur of congratulations, subtle support, and not so subtle gossip that would keep the Charleston social scene entertained for months. 6 months later, William and I were married in a small ceremony at his beach house on Pawleys Island. Just 20 guests. My parents, a few close friends, William's business partners. The people who'd stood by us when the entire city was whispering about us. Jessica wasn't invited. She and Daniel had moved to Atlanta 2 months after the gala, unable to withstand the social exile that followed their very public humiliation. Last I heard, they'd broken up. Apparently, relationships built on deception don't have strong foundations. Who could have predicted that? Some people say I planned the whole thing, that I set out to seduce William from the moment I discovered the affair, that it was all calculated revenge, served ice cold. They're partially right. It did start as revenge. I did want to hurt Jessica the way she'd hurt me. I did want to show her that I could take something precious from her, just as she'd taken from me. But somewhere between that first lunch at Peninsula Grill and our first dance at the gala, it became real. William and I found something neither of us had been looking for: genuine love, mutual respect, true partnership. He challenges me intellectually, supports me professionally, and cherishes me personally in ways Daniel never did. We've been married for 18 months now. I left Whitmore & Associates to start my own investment firm, backed by William's connections but built on my own merit. We travel, we laugh, we love. The age difference that everyone predicted would be our downfall has become irrelevant. If anything, it's a strength. William's experience and my energy create a balance that works. Last week, we ran into Jessica at a restaurant in Atlanta. We were there for a conference. She was there with friends. She looks older, tired, diminished somehow. The confidence that once let her take whatever she wanted has been replaced by something more tentative, more careful. She approached our table hesitantly. "Dad?" "Emma." "Jessica," William acknowledged coolly. She started, then stopped. "I heard you got married. Congratulations." "Thank you," I said simply. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "For everything. I know it doesn't change anything, but I am sorry." William studied his daughter for a long moment. "I know you are, but sorry doesn't erase what you did. It doesn't rebuild the trust you broke." "I know." She turned to leave, then looked back. "Are you happy?" "Yes," we said in unison. She nodded, tears in her eyes, and walked away. It was closure of a sort, though the wounds would never fully heal. Some betrayals cut too deep, leave scars too permanent. But sitting there with William, his hand covering mine, our wedding rings catching the light, I realized something important. The best revenge really is living well. Not because it hurts the people who wronged you, but because it heals you. It shows you that their betrayal, painful as it was, led you to something better. Something you might never have found if they hadn't forced you to look. Jessica and Daniel thought they were stealing my future when they started their affair. Instead, they gave me a gift. They showed me I was settling for less than I deserved. They freed me from a mediocre marriage and a toxic friendship. They led me to William, to real love, to a life bigger and better than anything I'd imagined. So thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for betraying me so thoroughly that I had no choice but to rebuild my life from scratch. The life I built is magnificent, and you'll never be part of it. That's the real revenge, not the public humiliation, not the social exile, not even marrying Jessica's father. The real revenge is that I'm genuinely, completely happy, and they're just footnotes in the story of how I got here. Sometimes when I'm lying in bed next to William in our beautiful home overlooking the harbor, I think about that day at the Blackwood Estate. The candles, the rose petals, the champagne, all that effort to create a romantic hideaway for their affair. The Blackwood Estate is mine now. I bought it at auction 6 months ago with my first major profit from my investment firm. I'm turning it into Charleston's first women's entrepreneurship center, a place where women can build businesses, find mentors, create their own futures. We're calling it the Phoenix Foundation, because sometimes you have to burn everything down to rise from the ashes. The grand opening is next month. The invitations have already gone out to everyone who matters in Charleston society. There's one addressed to a certain apartment in Atlanta, though I doubt they'll come. But if they do, they'll see what I built from the ruins they created. They'll see that betrayal isn't the end of the story. Sometimes it's just the beginning. Epilogue. 2 years later, I'm pregnant. At 32, after 2 years of marriage to William, we're having a baby. The doctors said it was unlikely given William's age. But here we are. Our little miracle. When I told William, he cried. Not sad tears, but tears of joy mixed with disbelief. I thought I was done with this part of my life, he said, holding me close. I never imagined I'd get to be a father again. We haven't told anyone yet, except my parents, who are over the moon. My mother, who initially had reservations about the age difference, has become William's biggest defender. He treats you like a queen, she says. That's all that matters. The baby is due in November, right around Thanksgiving. We're turning the guest suite into a nursery, painting it a soft sage green that reminds me of the Charleston marshes at sunset. William has already bought enough books to start a library. I want our child to love reading, he says, arranging picture books on custom-built shelves. Yesterday, we got a letter from Jessica. A real letter, handwritten on cream stationery. She's engaged to someone new, a lawyer from Savannah she met at a conference. She wanted us to know she's been in therapy for the past year, working through what she calls her destructive patterns. She wrote, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it, but I wanted you to know that losing you both was the wake-up call I needed. I was selfish, cruel, and destructive. I destroyed the 2 most important relationships in my life for something that was never real. Daniel and I were just 2 broken people breaking each other further. I'm trying to be better, to be someone worthy of the love I threw away. I heard about the Phoenix Foundation. It's wonderful. Exactly the kind of thing Emma would create. Taking something broken and making it beautiful. I'm happy for you both, genuinely. I hope someday, maybe when enough time has passed, we might find a way back to each other. Not to what we were, but to something new, something honest. William read the letter 3 times, then folded it carefully and placed it in his desk drawer. Maybe, he said quietly, maybe someday. I don't know if that day will ever come. Trust, once shattered, is almost impossible to rebuild. But I've learned that forgiveness isn't about the person who wronged you. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of anger. So I'm working on forgiving Jessica. Not for her sake, but for mine. For our baby, who deserves to come into a world free from the poison of old grudges. For William, who misses his daughter even if he won't admit it. For the teenage girls we once were, sharing secrets and dreams before life got complicated. The Phoenix Foundation is thriving. We've helped launch 12 women-owned businesses in our first year. The Blackwood Estate, once the scene of my greatest humiliation, is now a symbol of empowerment. Every time I walk through those doors, I remember that our worst moments don't define us. What we do with them does. Daniel moved to California last year. Mutual friends say he's dating someone new, a yoga instructor 10 years younger. I hope he's learned something from what happened. I hope he treats her better than he treated me. But mostly, I don't think about him at all. He's a ghost from another life, someone I once loved who became a stranger. William and I are building our life day by day. We still get looks when we're out together. The age difference will always raise eyebrows. But Charleston has mostly moved on to newer scandals. We're old news now. Just another couple pushing a stroller through White Point Garden, having Sunday brunch at Hominy Grill, living our lives. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't walked into the Blackwood Estate that day. If I'd remained ignorant, would Daniel and I still be married? Would Jessica still be my best friend? Would I be living that safe, predictable life, never knowing what I was missing? The thought terrifies me. Because this life, this unexpected, scandalous, glorious life, is worth every moment of pain that led to it. William challenges me, cherishes me, sees me in ways no one ever has. Our baby, growing inside me, is proof that beauty can come from ashes, that love can bloom in the most unlikely circumstances. So here's what I've learned. Betrayal is not the end of your story. It's a chapter, a painful, necessary chapter that teaches you who you really are. Some people let it break them, others let it reveal them. When Jessica and Daniel thought they were destroying me, they were actually setting me free. Free from a marriage that looked perfect but felt empty. Free from a friendship that was performance, not partnership. Free to discover that I was capable of so much more than being someone's wife, someone's best friend, someone's second choice. The Phoenix Foundation now has a waiting list. Women from all over the Southeast come to Charleston to be part of what we're building. Last month, a woman who'd been through her own betrayal, charisma, her business partner had embezzled everything, stood in the grand ballroom where I'd once found Daniel and Jessica, and pitched her new company to investors. She got funded. She cried. She said the Phoenix Foundation saved her life. That's when I knew that everything that happened was worth it. William jokes that I turned revenge into a business model. You took the worst moment of your life and turned it into an empire, he says, watching me work late into the evening on expansion plans for Phoenix locations in Savannah and Charlotte. But it's more than that. It's proof that we don't have to be defined by what happens to us. We're defined by what we do next. The baby kicked for the first time yesterday. William had his hand on my stomach, and we both felt it. This tiny flutter of life. This future we're creating together. He looked at me with such wonder, such love, that I forgot about everything else. The age difference, the scandal, the way we started, none of it matters now. What matters is that we chose each other, not in spite of the circumstances, but because of them. We saw each other at our worst, him grieving his daughter's betrayal, me devastated by my husband's affair, and decided to build something beautiful anyway. Last night, I had dinner with Catherine Chen, my divorce lawyer who's become a close friend. She told me something that stuck. Most people think the opposite of love is hate, but it's not. It's indifference. The fact that you felt such rage at Jessica and Daniel means you loved them. The fact that you can now wish them well means you've healed. She's right. I don't hate them anymore. I nothing them. They're characters in a story I've finished reading, a book I've closed and put back on the shelf. My story now is about William, our baby, the Phoenix Foundation, the life we're building. But I kept the recording from the Blackwood Estate. Not for legal reasons. The divorce is long final. I keep it as a reminder. On days when I doubt myself, when imposter syndrome creeps in, when I wonder if I deserve this happiness, I remember that recording. I remember the woman who had the presence of mind to document her worst moment, who walked out with dignity intact, who chose to rise instead of crumble. That woman saved me. I saved myself. The gala is next week. The same Harbor Foundation gala where William and I made our debut 3 years ago. We're the honorary chairs this year. The theme is Rising from the Ashes, and all proceeds go to the Phoenix Foundation. I'm 8 months pregnant and huge. The designer had to let out my gown 3 times. William says I've never looked more beautiful. You're glowing, he tells me every morning. Actually glowing. Jessica sent a donation to the Phoenix Foundation. $50,000. The note said simply, for the women who need to rise. William and I discussed it for days. Do we accept it? Is it blood money? An attempt to buy forgiveness? Finally, we decided that money has no memory. Those funds would help women escape bad situations, start new lives, build dreams from debris. Jessica's money, earned from her own new consulting firm in Atlanta, would do good in the world. That was enough. We sent a thank you note. Formal, polite. The kind you send to acquaintances, not family, but it was contact. A tiny crack in the wall between us. William has started talking about Jessica more. Small things. Jessica used to love this song, or Jessica had that same habit of biting her lip when concentrating. He's processing his grief, our therapist says. Yes, we see a therapist together, every Thursday. The same time slot I used to have brunch with Jessica. William was resistant at first. Southern men of his generation don't do therapy. But now he's the one who makes sure we never miss a session. I want to be the best husband and father I can be, he says. I want to break the cycles that led Jessica to think betrayal was acceptable. The business world has been watching our story with fascination. Last month, Forbes did a profile on the Phoenix Foundation, calling it the most elegant revenge story in corporate America. They got it wrong. Of course, it's not about revenge anymore. It hasn't been for a long time. It's about resurrection. My assistant knocked on my office door yesterday. "Mrs. Hartley, there's a woman here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's important." I looked up from my laptop to see a woman in her 50s, well-dressed but clearly distressed. She clutched a designer handbag like a lifeline. "I'm Patricia Blackwood," she said. "My family owned the Blackwood Estate. The estate where everything fell apart. The estate that was now our headquarters." "I heard what you did with it," she continued, "how you transformed it from a place of pain into something powerful. My husband, I just found out about his affair. 20 years of marriage, and he's been seeing his secretary for 3 of them. The cliche of it all." She broke down crying. I walked around my desk, very pregnant and probably waddling, and hugged this stranger who wasn't really a stranger at all. She was me 3 years ago. She was every woman who'd ever been betrayed by someone they trusted. "It gets better," I told her. "I promise it gets better. Not easier, but better." We talked for 2 hours. I introduced her to our counselors, our lawyer network, our financial advisors. The Phoenix Foundation isn't just about starting businesses. It's about rebuilding lives. As she left, Patricia turned back. "Your story gave me hope. Knowing that someone else survived this, thrived after this, matters. It makes me believe I can too." That's when I realized the true power of what we'd built. Not the business success, not the social redemption, not even the personal happiness. It was this: the ability to show other women that betrayal doesn't have to be the end. William and I are thinking of writing a book about our story, from ashes to empire, or something equally dramatic. Publishers are interested. Hollywood has come calling. Apparently, our story would make a great limited series. Southern Gothic meets modern romance, one producer pitched. We're considering it, not for the money or fame, but because stories have power. Our story might help someone else rise from their own ashes. Daniel reached out last month. First contact in 2 years. He's engaged now, wants to clear the air before his wedding. He actually had the audacity to ask if I thought Jessica might want to reconnect with him. "We were friends once," he wrote. "All of us. Maybe we could find our way back to something like that." I laughed so hard William thought I was going into labor. The delusion was breathtaking. As if we could all sit around a dinner table, passing the salt and pretending he hadn't fucked my best friend in our marriage bed. As if Jessica and I could swap pregnancy stories while our shared ex carved the turkey. I didn't respond. Some messages don't deserve answers. But it did make me think about forgiveness, about moving forward, about what healing really looks like. I don't need to be friends with Daniel or Jessica. I don't need their apologies or their presence in my life. Healing isn't about reconciliation with the people who hurt you. It's about reconciliation with yourself, with the life you choose after the hurt. My parents are moving to Charleston. They want to be near their grandchild, but I think they also want to be near this version of their daughter, the one who runs boardrooms and charity galas, who married a man who treats her like royalty, who turned disaster into triumph. "We barely recognize you," my mother said last week, watching me negotiate a $1 million donation over the phone while reviewing architectural plans for Phoenix, Charlotte. "You're so powerful now." "I was always powerful," I told her. I just needed a reason to realize it. The nursery is finished. Sage green walls, white furniture, a mobile of phoenixes that William commissioned from a local artist. Sometimes I stand in there, hand on my belly, and think about the child who'll grow up in this room. They'll never know a world where their mother was weak, where she accepted less than she deserved, where she stayed in relationships that diminished her. They'll know a mother who rebuilt herself from nothing, a father who chose love over convention, a family born from the ashes of betrayal but soaring far above it. The contractions started this morning, small ones, far apart but unmistakable. William is pacing, wanting to leave for the hospital now even though the doctor says we have hours. He's made 3 lists, checked the hospital bag 5 times, and called the doctor twice. "I can't lose you," he said suddenly, gripping my hands. "Either of you. You've given me a second chance at everything. Love, family, happiness. I can't lose you." "You won't," I promised, even though no one can really promise that. "We're fighters, remember? Phoenix babies rising from the ashes." He laughed through his tears. This powerful man brought to his knees by love and fear and joy all tangled together. Jessica sent flowers, a massive arrangement of white orchids with a simple card. "Congratulations. May your child know only love and loyalty, Jay." I kept the card. Maybe someday our child will ask about their Aunt Jessica, and I'll have to figure out how to explain that family is complicated, that people who hurt us don't always disappear, that forgiveness is a journey, not a destination. But not today. Today is about new life, new beginnings, new chapters in a story that almost ended 3 years ago, in a mansion full of candles and lies. The contractions are getting stronger. William is helping me breathe through them. This man who's been my anchor through every storm. In between contractions, I think about everything that had to happen for us to get here. Every betrayal, every tear, every moment of rage and despair. Would I do it all again, knowing how much it would hurt? Yes. Because this is where it led to William, to our child, to a life I never could have imagined when I was Mrs. Daniel Parker, content with comfortable lies and settling for less. The Phoenix Foundation's motto is carved into a plaque in our lobby. Your story doesn't end in ashes. Mine didn't. Patricia Blackwood's won't. Neither will the hundreds of women who will walk through our doors in the coming years, carrying their own tales of betrayal and heartbreak. We rise. We always rise. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, we soar. The birth, Elizabeth Maria Hartley, was born at 11:47 p.m. on November 22nd, the night before Thanksgiving. 7 pounds, 3 ounces of perfect, screaming life. She has William's eyes and my stubbornness, already refusing to conform to anyone's schedule but her own. When the nurse placed her on my chest, William broke down completely. This man who'd built an empire, who'd weathered his wife's death and his daughter's betrayal, sobbed like a child at the sight of his daughter. "She's perfect," he whispered. "Absolutely perfect." "Elizabeth," I said, testing the name we'd chosen. "Lizzie, after your grandmother?" "After queens. Elizabeth I, Elizabeth II. Women who ruled in their own right, who refused to be defined by the men in their lives." William kissed my forehead, then Lizzie's. "She'll be formidable, just like her mother." The birth announcement made the Charleston newspaper, because everything we do makes the newspapers now. William and Emma Hartley welcomed daughter Elizabeth Maria. The couple who married following Mrs. Hartley's highly publicized divorce are founders of the Phoenix Foundation, Charleston's premier women's entrepreneurship center. Such a sanitized version of our story. No mention of the betrayal, the revenge, the scandal that had Charleston clutching its pearls for months. Time has a way of smoothing rough edges, making the unacceptable acceptable, transforming gossip into history. Jessica sent a gift, a sterling silver rattle from Tiffany's, engraved with Lizzie's initials. The note said, "Every child deserves an aunt who loves them, even from a distance. If you ever feel ready, I'm here." William found me crying over it, hormones and exhaustion and something else, something harder to name. "She's trying," he said simply. "I know. What do you want to do?" I looked at Lizzie, sleeping in her bassinet, perfect and innocent and untouched by all this history. "I want to think about it. Maybe she can meet her. Supervised. Brief, but maybe." "That's very generous of you." "It's not generosity. It's strategy. Lizzie will have questions someday. It's better if Jessica is a real person with boundaries than a mysterious villain in family lore." William nodded. "You're already a wonderful mother." I learned what not to do from the best. We both laughed, dark humor being our specialty now. The Phoenix Foundation threw us a baby shower that turned into an impromptu fundraiser. These women, all of them rebuilding their lives in various ways, raised $200,000 in a single afternoon for our expansion fund. They call Lizzie the Phoenix baby, a symbol of what's possible after everything falls apart. It's been 3 weeks now. Lizzie is thriving. William has taken to fatherhood again, like he was born for it. changing diapers with the same precision he applies to million-dollar deals. He's already planning her education, her trust fund, her future. She'll have choices, he says. Whatever she wants to be, wherever she wants to go, she'll never have to stay in a bad situation because she can't afford to leave. I think about my marriage to Daniel, how financial dependence had been one of the chains keeping me there. Not anymore. Never again. And not for Lizzie, not for any daughter of mine. Daniel got married last weekend. I saw the announcement on social media. A beach wedding in Malibu, the bride young and blonde and beaming. She looks happy. Naive, but happy. I wonder if she knows about Jessica, about me, about the man she's marrying who's capable of such calculated deception. Probably not. People like Daniel are good at reinventing themselves, erasing inconvenient histories. But the internet is forever. Someday she'll Google him and find the stories, the divorce records, the truth. I hope she's stronger than she looks. As for me, I'm sitting in the nursery at 3 a.m., feeding Lizzie while William sleeps. The house is quiet except for her soft suckling sounds and the distant crash of waves. We moved to a new house on Sullivan's Island, closer to the beach, with enough bedrooms for more children if we're blessed with them. The old apartment downtown, the one I shared with Daniel, sold immediately. The new owners are a young couple, fresh out of college, full of dreams. I wanted to warn them that dreams can become nightmares, that the person you love can become a stranger, that trust is fragile and easily shattered. Instead, I wished them luck and handed over the keys. Everyone deserves their chance at happiness, even if it ends in disaster, especially if it ends in disaster. Because disaster, I've learned, is just another word for opportunity. My phone buzzes with a text. It's Patricia Blackwood, filed the divorce papers today, starting my new company tomorrow. Thank you for showing me that the end can be a beginning. Another phoenix rising from the ashes. I look down at Lizzie, her perfect fingers wrapped around mine, and make her a promise. You will be strong. You will be independent. You will know your worth from the moment you can understand language. And if someone ever betrays you, you won't just survive it, you'll transform it into something magnificent. The sun is rising over the Atlantic, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. A new day, a new life, a new chapter in a story that refuses to end. 3 years ago, I walked into the Blackwood Estate and found my husband with my best friend. I thought it was the worst day of my life. I was wrong. It was the day my real life began.